Awesome. Perfect. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so I did want to start out here by talking kind of high level about email integration and why it's important to integrate email with Salesforce. In this day and age, we're all familiar with the fact that we really live in our email and in our inboxes, especially for our salespeople. It's really important to bring the benefits of Salesforce inside your reps' email inboxes. And all of you being in the nonprofit space, this applies to you as well, right? So instead of your users having to go into the desktop application of Salesforce to update records or create new records, schedule meetings, whatever it might be, they can do all of this directly in their mailboxes without having to leave their email. So all of that main functionality and the things that they need to do on a daily basis being brought into their email is going to make everybody a lot more efficient. And so why is that important, right? There's a few things that we see when email and CRM or Salesforce aren't connected. There are a lot of missed opportunities. There's limited visibility if a rep or a user isn't connecting their communications with customers into Salesforce. If you're a sales manager or a program manager, you're going to want to see what's going on within a deal or an opportunity. And from a sales team perspective, you might want to look at an opportunity you're taking over for another user and see what's been going on. So it's really important that for that information to be connected into Salesforce. And finally, time gets wasted by not being able to really sit down and do the actual work that makes us productive. We know how important it is for reps to spend their time selling or communicating with their different partners in your organization rather than just inputting data. So bringing that email integration into Salesforce makes it easier and faster for our users to keep their information updated. Now, one thing we hear from customers quite a bit is that the names of our email integration products can get a little confusing, especially with several products that are being retired. So let me use this slide to give an overview of our current products and what their purpose is. And I will speak to any changes that are coming on the roadmap as well. So as we take a look at mailbox and calendar tools, we've really split it up into two separate features. The first is mailbox integration, which is along the top row here. And then the second one is calendar and contact syncing on the bottom row. Now, one product that we just mentioned a second ago is Salesforce for Outlook. That's not listed here on the screen because that's a legacy product that's being retired soon. But for those of you who are familiar with Salesforce for Outlook, you know that it actually held both of these products, the mailbox integration and the syncing in one tool. But those two tools have now been separated. So if you were using Salesforce for Outlook for both of these tools, you will now need to use two separate tools for mailbox integration and sync or capture. So if you look at the top left-hand corner, you'll see Outlook and Gmail integration. This is our no-cost email integration, and it provides a side panel that lives next to your inbox, and it connects you directly with Salesforce. So this is a core integration, no-cost product. Anybody who has Salesforce licenses basically are going to have access to the Outlook or Gmail integration tool. Looking to the right of that, you see Inbox. So Inbox actually uses the Outlook and Gmail integration product at its core, and it's just a premium add-on to our Outlook and Gmail integration. It's a paid license add-on with features that we'll talk about in a little bit. Looking at the bottom section here, we've got our syncing functionality, and the first product you see is Lightning Sync. So this is a legacy tool as well that allows you to sync contacts and events with Salesforce. Some of you may have heard that this is set to be end of life in about 2 years. It will be going end of sale in our winter release in a few weeks, which just means that brand new customers or brand new orgs to Salesforce won't be able to use Lightning Sync. And then next to that, we have Einstein Activity Capture. So we are recommending that our customers who are using Salesforce for Outlook or Lightning Sync, or even just customers that want to begin syncing contacts and events, we're recommending that they use Einstein Activity Capture. EAC allows you not only to sync contacts and events like Lightning Sync does, but it also includes a stream or capture functionality, which works a little differently than a sync functionality. It also is able to, it allows you to stream events and contacts as well as emails. So in a nutshell, EAC has the ability to automatically capture emails and relate them to any records that they'd be related to in Salesforce. Now, there are a lot of nuances around this tool and how it works, so we definitely recommend doing some research for sure before enabling Einstein Activity Capture in your org. So this slide gives you a high-level overview of email integration. As I mentioned before, email integration allows you to have that side panel directly within your email inbox. It gives you the ability to view records, edit records, and log emails to specific records within Salesforce. If you have that Inbox Premium license, you also have that mobile application for your phone that's specific to Inbox. This is great because it brings all of the Inbox functionality from your mailbox into your mobile application as well. So you're able to use tools like scheduling emails to send later, availability, email tracking, all within that mobile phone application. Now, all of these features will probably be better understood if you can really actually get a good look at how they work in real time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mackenzie, and she will walk through the live demo with us.
Thank you, Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Let's make sure I'm sharing the right one. Nope, I have to share, set up some system preferences. While I'm getting this set up here, want to see if this might be a good opportunity if anyone has questions to type them in to the questions panel. I think my screen is sharing. Do you see it, Whitney?
I do. I see your Outlook.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, so if anyone has questions, go ahead and type those into the panel. Whitney, I'll let you keep an eye on that now since I am sharing my screen. Okay, so as Whitney mentioned, this, the terminology, Outlook integration, inbox, Lightning Sync, Einstein Activity Capture, it's a lot of terms, right? So it can get kind of confusing. So in this portion, I'm going to demo, we're going to start with Outlook integration, just the base Outlook integration that you have access to at no cost. If you purchase inbox licenses, what then becomes available to you. And then we'll also take a look at Einstein Activity Capture, which I will shorten to EAC. It's a little bit easier to say, but we'll take a look at what that includes as well. So hopefully this will give you a better overview of what comes with each option. Definitely ask questions along the way. We're going to save some time at the end for Q&A. So if you have any burning questions on something I just touched on, Whitney, feel free to interrupt me there, but we'll have some time at the end to address any of your questions. And to be honest, I could spend up to probably 2 hours on the phone with customers discussing all the nitty-gritty details of this. So we're going to be somewhat high level today. It sounds like some of you are using the integrations already. So we'll come up, discuss some best practices for those individuals. So
Mackenzie, quick question. Are you going to cover, I've got a couple questions here about how can you tell if you have Salesforce for Outlook or the Outlook integration? Are you going to hit on that at some point?
Yeah, that's a great place to start, actually.
Perfect.
So thank you. So just from an Outlook perspective or from a Gmail perspective, the Outlook and Gmail are going to be interchangeable terminologies here. So because they're extremely similar user experience. Since I'm in Outlook, I'm just going to say Outlook for the moment. But in either email, this blue cloud indicates that you're using Outlook integration. And this side panel here that we see is also Outlook integration. If you have Salesforce for Outlook, there would be, I believe it would be over here, you'd have some other options for Salesforce for Outlook. But from an email, your email, you could see it through this add-in. Through Salesforce, I'm actually going to go into my setup here. As a Salesforce admin, when you are, yeah, so actually with Gmail, you would just have the same integration. There's no changes. You wouldn't have been using Salesforce for Outlook. But if you're in Outlook, the new integration is going to be this option, integration and sync. Outlook configurations is Salesforce for Outlook. I don't even have the option to turn that on in my org. It'll direct you to this one if you're new. So hopefully that clears up what people are where they have. Any other questions I can hit on, Whitney?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. So now that we're in our emails, as Whitney mentioned, we are all working out of our emails right now. So as much time we can save from toggling back and forth from one application to another, the better. So let me go into this email I received from an interested party. I'll try to use nonprofit language. Maybe this is a constituent or maybe somebody who's donated money or whoever you would be communicating with. What shows up on the right-hand side on this panel are going to be related records that you have in Salesforce. So in this example, I can see that I have a related contact, and I see that because what it does is it's scanning the to and CC fields, those emails. So it's going to pull up any related contacts, leads, other objects, accounts that you have in your org. So let's say I receive an email, and this is my demo org, so I have some funky emails here, but let's say I receive an email from someone that's not in Salesforce. I know that because there are no related records here. Salesforce does not find anything associated to this email, so it's giving me the option to add to Salesforce very quick. So let's say I'd want to add as a new contact. I can click new contact and fill in just whatever fields are necessary for that contact to save it. So then it would be in Salesforce. I'm going to go back to this here. So with the base Outlook integration, this is available, this related tab, as well as this tasks tab. Feed and scheduled are going to be if you have inbox licenses. I'll go over that in just a moment, just to not confuse what's available here. But what I'd like to do, let's say that this email is not in Salesforce yet. It is because I've logged it right before this, but I'm going to click here. It's either going to say log email or edit logged email. This is the manual process to get this email communication into Salesforce. So when I clicked on that button, log email or edit logged email, I have this option, this view now. So these are still all of my related records. This is Salesforce saying, hey, I found these objects. I think you might want to associate this email to. I'm going to choose, I just want to see it under this contact and this account. So when you're looking at user experience, you can log an email to multiple people. So if you have, maybe you have 5 contacts in here that you're emailing, 5 of those contacts are going to show up and you can log it to all of those individuals. You can log to one other object. So maybe if you're using opportunities, or maybe you want to log it to an account, you would log it to one other account. So it's an accurate representation of the actual activity that's happening. So you're not duplicating your activity in Salesforce for that one single email. So I'm going to actually just change it here so I can click save. And so now I see that that email is in Salesforce. So if I were to click, just to double check, I can click into my records, and this contact record is a mirror of what this would look like in Salesforce. So you'll see all the same fields, the same page layout that you have set up already. I'm going to go over to my activity history, and I can see this is the email that I just logged. So now that's visible. Anyone going into Salesforce, if they have access to those emails, then they can see what's been going on. So there's an obvious indicator of who's engaging with this person, and I could expand it. So, and while you're in that contact, this object, you can edit fields. Maybe you see they've changed their title. You can update those fields as you see fit. So another thing that comes with just the base Outlook integration is this quick actions option. So here you can customize what options show up. These are your global actions in Salesforce. That's where you'd go and set up. So I could, let's say I wanted to create a new opportunity. You also have the ability to customize what fields show up here, but then you fill these out, save it, and it's now an opportunity in Salesforce. So another great way to be able to create records and update records without having to go into Salesforce. So next, I'm going to actually reply to this email. I want to set up some time with this individual. So I'm going to say, thank you for reaching out. And another best practice, actually, I should mention really quick, is to click this pin option, depending on what version of Outlook you have. For most cases, I see this available. If you have an older version of Outlook, it may not be available, but I definitely recommend pinning it here in the compose view and here when you're reading an email, so you don't have to click it open every time you read an email. But now I can click, with just the base Outlook integration, you have the option to log email on send and email templates. So this compose tab pops up when you're typing out an email because you're only going to use these features when you're typing, not when you're reading. So let's say before I even type out my email, I want to make sure I log it in Salesforce. I don't want to forget. You can click log email on send, and it's the same thing as we did before. Next, with base Outlook integration, you can use email templates. So you'd click on your email template, you just update, what object would you be relating this to? You can search for different folders, and then you could input whatever templates have already been created in Salesforce Lightning experience. So this is actually asking me, okay, who are you sending this to and what account? So if you have any merge fields on your template, it knows what fields for these records to put into those fields. So it has the right name and the right company, just to personalize that communication and really speed up your engagements. So that's available with just the base Outlook integration. Now, if you were to add inbox licenses, so those additional productivity features, you get access to these bottom 4 components, as well as the inbox mobile app. As Whitney had mentioned, it's a more condensed version of the email integration in mobile form for those on the road. So to go through these different options, availability, we're going to click on that first. This is personally probably my most used feature. This allows you to schedule times with constituents, hopeful people that want to get engaged with your nonprofit by including time slots to connect. So on the left side, we see details of what a calendar invite would look like once it's been created. So you can change the subject line, description, time frame. You can change the time zone. So I'm in Eastern, but let's say I know I'm emailing someone in Central. I want to give them Central times. I'm going to include some time slots. I know I'm available during these times, and hopefully whoever I'm emailing is also available. So once I click add to email, those will pop up right here. So now when I send this email off, let's say they think 2 o'clock is good for them. They click on that time, it'll automatically schedule a calendar invite, and it'll invite all the necessary parties on the email. So a really easy way to cut down on communication to get back and forth. And also it's a real-time view of your calendar. So if 2:15 books up for you before they can look at this email, those times are going to gray out, so you're not going to be double booked. Next, we have email tracking. If you toggle this on, you'll be able to see when an individual has opened your emails. And if you click track links, you'll see if they've clicked on a link. Maybe you send like your website or an event link. Then you can see who's interested in those and who's clicked on those links. Text shortcuts is similar to email templates. It's just kind of a mini template. So you can create text shortcuts with little snippets. Maybe you add a little something like your signature phrase after every email, you could import that quickly and easily. And we'll close out of that. And lastly, we have send later. So as it sounds, this allows you to schedule an email out to send later. So let's say you want to send an email 9 a.m. Their time. Maybe they're Eastern, you're Pacific. You're not going to wake up that early to send it. So you can type out your email, choose the time, and then once you click send later, it'll put it in your queue. So it'll be in your email drafts if you need to make edits to that email or delete it for whatever reason. But once you click send later, it'll save and send out at that specified time. But if you want to see what emails you have scheduled out, you can find those. I'm going to click on these three dots here to get more options and click on scheduled. This tab is only if you have inbox because send later is with inbox license, but you're going to see your queued up emails here. So you can have a better understanding of what's available. And then task, feed, that is also what's available with inbox. This allows you to see the email tracking piece that we turned on. So I see here, I have 4 opens. I could click into it. If I had any links, then I'd see those clicks as well. And similar to how you can log emails, you can log events too. Just if you go to your calendar, open up your event, you could just have that same option. So I know I went through that hopefully at a good speed, maybe a little quick, but I'd like to stop before I get into EAC, Einstein Activity Capture, and see, Whitney, if there were any questions we could address.
Yeah, we've got a couple of them that we've been kind of answering on the side, but one that I wanted to double check on was when you're using email templates, you have access to Lightning and Classic templates, right?
You do. Yep.
Okay.
You have those here.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, everything else. Jessica's asking if we can clarify that log event piece. Do you want to hop into your calendar? Okay.
Certainly.
Yeah, everything else is looking great though.
Okay. My calendar's looking a little sad today. So it's going to be an already created event that you have. You're going to just open it up, and then similar to before, you'll see this blue cloud. This is my Outlook demo org, so it does run a little bit slower than, let's say, I use Gmail personally. So Gmail works a little, and that's my actual Gmail email, so it works a little bit faster. But so it's going to look similar. You'll have your compose, because this is where you can log email related. You have a tasks tab. If you use tasks, you can edit those tasks, create them, whatever you need to do. But I would just click on log event. And then another nice thing is you can have event type. So this is a field associated to your event activity. So you can adjust the pick list options you have here. If you have different types of events you want to record this as, then you would just do the same thing. If I had invited individuals into this event, you would see those related records here as well as just like an indicator like, hey, you probably want to log it here, but you could just choose and then save it. Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
That looks great.
Awesome. Should I move on to Einstein Activity Capture, or did we have any other questions?
No, I think let's tackle EAC.
Okay, we'll do it in a quick manner. The nice thing is it's not going to look much different for users. And I'm actually going to move out of Outlook and go to my EAC demo org, which is in Gmail. So as you can see, a very similar view for our Gmail users. So if you do have Einstein Activity Capture, you, instead of having the log email option, because as Whitney had mentioned, the nice piece about EAC is that it's automatically streaming your emails into Salesforce. So it's going to look for whoever you've set up with EAC, it's going to look in their mailbox. It's going to, let's say for this email, it's going to scan Salesforce and try and find a related record. Or there's a standard set of objects that it will relate emails to, but let's say it finds contact, opportunity, and account. What's going to happen is you're now going to see this email under the contact, opportunity, and account in Salesforce. And so because that's automatically happening, you're not going to log email, but here you can change the sharing settings. As a Salesforce admin, you can set the default sharing of emails. So maybe everyone's emails are public to everybody else in Salesforce, or maybe they're private to everybody else in Salesforce. Individual users can change that setting for themselves as the default, but also just for individual emails. And then if, let's say, I mean, we can see here, I have added to Salesforce. This cannot find a record in Salesforce related to this email. So this email is not going to stream into Salesforce because there's no related record for it to associate to. Let's say, sorry, I left my train of thought there, but another situation where emails would not come into Salesforce is internal emails. So automatically when you set this up, your internal email domain is excluded. So that way you're not bringing in maybe you're just talking to colleagues about something, it's not necessary. You can bring it in, or you can just rely on the exclusion list so those emails don't go in. And you can also, as an admin and Salesforce users themselves, can add emails or domains to that list to exclude. And so the second piece of Einstein activity capture, besides just emails, you can sync your contacts and events. So if I go to my calendar in Outlook, if you set up that sync, and you can choose the direction if you want it to be bidirectional or from Outlook to Salesforce or Gmail to Salesforce, then that would be in your Salesforce settings. But I have a bidirectional sync set up. So I put this in my Outlook calendar this morning, and this is an event I put in my Salesforce calendar this morning. So I see that EAC synced this to my Outlook calendar, and if I go to my Salesforce calendar, I can see those both here too. So this is just a great way to keep your calendars up to date. And I can go in here, and this is an event in Salesforce. I can edit this, whatever I would need to do with that. Or if you have any processes or automations that are triggered from events, you could still use that the same way. And with Einstein activity capture, there are some dashboards that come out of the box to track activity that's being pulled from your emails and events. And this will also show anything that happens in Salesforce. So let's say you log a call or a task in Salesforce, that'll show up here as well. So just I know we're just quickly doing an overview, but just wanted to bring this up so you could see at a glance, you could see activity that's being pulled. So I know we only have a few more minutes here for our turn. Whitney, were there any additional questions about Einstein activity capture?
There was one that we covered, just kind of speaking more to that exclusion and the inability to manually log emails once you enable EAC. But that's it for now. Do we want to see if there's any other questions maybe that come in, and then just hit the last couple slides we have?
Yeah, real quick, I do want to mention too, bring those questions in if you still have them.
Yeah.
But back to Whitney's forward-looking statement at the beginning of this presentation, on this release, this winter release, there's a couple of ways you can use EAC. There's a standard version, which your org would get 100 free licenses of, and then there's also a paid version, and that comes if you do purchase inbox licenses. So I do want to point out for the free version of it, the 100 free licenses, with this winter release, you can turn off the email streaming piece. Before it was essentially all or nothing, but now when that's available in your org, you can say, I just want to sync my events, and then you sync your events, or I just want to sync my contacts, or maybe just events and email. So you have more ability to control what is and what isn't coming over to Salesforce. And for the paid version with the inbox licenses of EAC, that is going to be available forward-looking statement, hopefully in the next release or two after this winter run. So something to look out for. But that's all I have then, Whitney. I'll let you take control again to go over those last slides.
And we do have a couple more questions that have come in, but I figure we could probably answer those here in the chat window as we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, let me jump in here. Okay, Mackenzie, are you seeing my screen, my desktop?
I am not.
Share. There we go.
There. Yep, I am now.
Cool. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're just going to wrap up today. If you have, I guess we kind of addressed some of these as we went. There is an email address here or in a website you can go to kind of look up some questions or on configuration or anything like that. And then we do have some recommendations and tools here on really how to kind of take this further. I believe you'll be getting this presentation after today, so I'll make sure that that is the case, but there's a really great trailhead you can take to kind of learn more about email integration as you go. This also has a link to a how-to video. We have a community, which is great to kind of ask your questions or see what other people are asking, other customers. And then really good email integration knowledge articles. Those are highly recommended. Mackenzie and I reference those all the time, daily in our work with customers because they're very, very helpful in kind of understanding how these tools can work the best. So I'll make sure that you're getting these links, and then I'm going to put a couple more links in the side panel in a couple minutes here. Other than that, it's really been our pleasure to be here with you guys and appreciate your really thoughtful questions, and hope that you have a lot of success as you continue moving forward with email integration.
Thank you, Whitney, and thank you, Mackenzie. That was outstanding. Thank you for covering those different tools and sharing your presentation. And yes, I will be happy to post the slides to the user group so that if anybody needs to reference the links that you just mentioned, then that would be available to them. Thank you very much. And I have one question for Whitney and Mackenzie. So Mackenzie, my understanding is you are joining us from Indianapolis. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. And what about you, Whitney? Where are you calling us from?
Yeah, I'm located in Portland, Oregon.
All right. This is exciting to have people from different states. So thank you very much for your time today.
Of course.
And so with our next presenter, we are coming back to Phoenix. Donald is the group leader of the Salesforce admin user group. So if you didn't know, there was an admin group. Now you know, and I encourage you to join the Phoenix admin user group. And sometimes, when you hear Salesforce talk, they say that customer, sort of comes first, and they're sort of the true north. And I like to also think that the admin specifically is really what is important at Salesforce, the Salesforce admin. And this really shows with the flexibility of the platform, and especially with the tools that are made available to you all administrators of Salesforce. And so Donald is going to talk to us about a specific tool that can be used to streamline the creation of custom objects in Salesforce. So Donald, if you are ready, take it away.
Outstanding. Thank you, Pierre. And thank you also to Salesforce for that awesome presentation on connecting your email services to Salesforce and essentially making your processes a lot more efficient. Before I get started, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Outstanding. So today, yes, as you mentioned, we're essentially going to be going over the Salesforce Lightning Object Creator. And this is actually a pretty awesome tool. But before we get into this, much as the Salesforce team did, we do have to go over the forward-looking statement. But just real briefly, essentially, please note that Salesforce is a publicly traded company. So please make all of your purchasing decisions based on current features and functionality. And I bring this up because we will be going over a little bit of the roadmap at the very end of this, which was previously released from the product team. So, Pierre, thank you for that awesome introduction. Yes, I am Donald Bohrisch. I am one of the very first graduates of what is known as the Salesforce military program, or what used to be known as the Vetforce program. And basically what that means is before I got into Salesforce, I served in both the Air Force and the Army, both here stateside as well as overseas. And been doing Salesforce for the last 7 years or so. Currently working on my 6th certification. And you know, being the Salesforce team actually is from Indianapolis. One thing I want to point out, so this picture actually on the right was taken at the Salesforce Tower over in Indianapolis from one of the big screens that's on the wall over there. I don't know, it's probably not still up there anymore, but I thought that was just kind of cool, and it's a good picture of me. So, you know, if any, and at the end of this, if any of y'all have any questions you want to reach out to me one-on-one about, you can reach me on LinkedIn or Twitter, Donald Bohrisch or at @dbohrisch. So with all that being said, I'm excited to help present this presentation to you and essentially help you level up in your Salesforce careers and your utilization of this amazing platform. So what we're going to go over is how objects are currently being created today in Salesforce, if you aren't already familiar with the Lightning Object Creator. Go over the new tool, which is the Lightning Object Creator, and essentially how it helps you build objects and apps a lot faster and helps you get rid of those data silos that you might have in your nonprofit organization. And finally, go a little bit over the roadmap as was previously announced. So, fun question, and this might throw a little bit of some of y'all for a loop. What is the most widely used database in the world? If you want, you can go and put your answer in the chat. Give you all just a couple seconds to throw that in there and think about that. Well, unfortunately for the productivity and efficiency of your teams, if you said Excel, you were correct. Eventually, of course, this will be Salesforce and the Salesforce platform. But even today, there's a lot of data silos out there that are simply being tracked in various spreadsheets in Excel or Google Sheets. And you know, the product team over at Salesforce, as innovative and intelligent as they are, found a way to help solve this problem. And that's essentially with the Lightning Object Creator here. So how did we, or how do some admins and developers still go about creating objects in Salesforce, and essentially show why it's so important to speed this process up? First off, especially in Classic, right, you go through, you have to create your object, and that'll give you kind of a starting point to then figure out what's next, right? Where normally we will go and we'll add some fields, essentially wanting to capture those various data points that we want to report on down the road, or even those automations that we're going to create off of these different objects and the values in these fields. Then we need to go and create the different page layouts. You know, maybe you're going to import some data after that, because I mean that's a whole other process in itself, right? Once we figure out and have somewhere to store the data, we actually have to get some of this old legacy data into our Salesforce orgs. So that would be, you know, preparing your sheets, kind of mapping those fields over. You know, maybe you're like me and you prefer the data loader over like the import wizard, right? So you got to go through, you have to open that up, sign in, all that fun stuff. At the end of the day, right, once you finally get all that in, you need to go and create and add your tabs. You can, you and your users can actually access this data. And if you do all this as you should in a sandbox, then you need to go through and deploy it all to production. So it actually takes even longer than it took me to explain all that to actually make this happen. Now, Salesforce, again, an amazing and innovative company, has gone and thought through this process and actually has created a tool to accelerate the object and essentially app building process. And that is with the Lightning Object Creator. So basically what you can do now, and this here on the right is actually a screenshot of what the tool looks like. You basically can go and take all these different data silos that you and your users and different stakeholders within your organization are currently housing, say in an Excel sheet, Office 365, a Google Sheet, various CSV type documents. You basically take those and port those right over to Salesforce, create the objects, create the fields, map the data in all at the same time. It's quite amazing. And essentially, one of the other cool things is in the Salesforce team previously it talked about how smart Salesforce is, and over the last couple of years it's becoming even smarter as the days go on. This tool actually allows you, or not allows you, but helps you in identifying what the possible data types for each of those fields are and their field labels without you having to put in too much work into that. So it's essentially helping you do your job more efficiently, even through this more efficient tool, right? So it's just efficiencies upon efficiencies that Salesforce is bringing to us. And it's pretty awesome. And at the end of the day, what does that all do? Well, it helps us build objects and apps lightning fast, reducing the time that it takes and the clicks that it takes with simply just a few clicks in the Salesforce platform. Now, the Lightning Object Creator truly can, say you already have an app and it's housing some of the data that you are already working on, right? Well, the Lightning Object Creator can actually also enhance those already existing applications. In the example actually that I'm going to go through, we're going to do a live demo here. I personally went and added what I call the pit crew object to the Audi Army Salesforce app. And really what that is I race cars in my free time, and I enjoy keeping track of things in my life to make life more efficient through various Salesforce developer orgs. And so that's actually what we will be going through here in the live demo. But curious, think to yourself, have you created objects with this old tedious route? And if you have, and especially if you got to go and create a whole bunch of fields in there, and you actually went through the data mapping process, just kind of think to yourself and then remember and hold on to that feeling that you get as far as, oh, wow, this is a lot of work we got to go through, and I wish there was an easier way to do that. So I'm going to show you the easier way. Essentially, we're going to go through, create an object, create some fields, and upload that data all at the same time through the amazing Lightning UI. And if you aren't already, just keep in mind that enhancing apps, creating objects, essentially getting rid of these data silos that you have in your organizations, getting rid of them and then bringing it all into Salesforce can not only make your life more easier and efficient, but also those of your stakeholders, right? I mean, the reporting benefits alone that come out of this can be pretty intense. So with that being said, let's jump straight into this live demo. Actually, before I do that, does anyone have any questions?
Yes, this is Pierre. What type of car do you race?
So not the blue one that Astro is currently racing in over at Chuckwalla, but it's an Audi TTS.
Nice.
And yes, that is Astro on the bottom right. Does anyone else have any questions? Alrighty then, let's jump in to this live demo. And share your screen. There. All right. Can everyone see my screen again? It should be Salesforce this time.
Yes, it can.
Outstanding. Thank you. Yes, so we have our, I just spun up this developer org for demo sake this morning, but essentially we have our homepage. And as easy as I kept saying this tool is, I'm now going to show you exactly how easy it is. So first step, we go up to setup on the top right, and we click on setup. That then takes us to our setup menu. And all we need to do is click on the object creator here on the top left. From there, what you're going to see, along with a list of all your current objects, is a button on the top right that says create. By clicking on that and clicking custom object from spreadsheet, that will open a new window. You will need to log into Salesforce. Fortunately for me, I'm already logged in here. And it will take you to the screen where, as I mentioned earlier, you can either upload this from an XLSX or a .csv. You can move this over from a Google Sheet, or you can move this over from Office 365 or Drive. For the sake of this, I'm going to pick a file, an Excel or a CSV that I have currently on my hard drive. And actually, before we go in and upload this, we're going to go and actually review the spreadsheet that we have available here. So essentially, this is for keeping track of the various projects that our NASCAR and NASA teams are working on to essentially help the race teams perform better on the track. So we have our project number is one field. Our project essentially is the other, project manager, affiliation, product type, project start, and whether it's NASCAR or NASA approved. Now, one thing you might want to think about as you're looking through your various spreadsheets is what type of data is being housed in here, right? So these are obviously all going to be numbers. This one, it might be good to have a text field here, right? The project manager eventually might want to be a lookup, but we're not sure if all these people are actually users in this Salesforce org. Along with the affiliation and product types being picked lists, we have a date, and this could, yes, being these are all yes or no values, could essentially all be checkboxes, right? So we have our data here. We know what we're going to input, and let's go ahead and move it into Salesforce. So what we do now that we're back on this sheet here, the object creator, we click the upload button, and it'll bring you here where we actually want to go and click on the Excel sheet we were just looking at. Uploading. Wow. Okay. So basically what it did was it actually took all of your various fields and within those different cells and brought them all to this screen here. Now, what we're seeing, right, we have on that row one, we have all of our different field names. We have what Salesforce recommends as the field name, right? It even includes like the spaces and all that. So it's coming over properly. And because this field label source here at the top was set to detect from row, we actually have our Salesforce field types. For instance, those project numbers, which were all numbers, was selected as an integer. The project, as we kind of went through this previously, we decided it was going to be a text. One thing we can do, so, and also same with the project manager, because again, we weren't sure if all those users or if all the people mentioned in that column were actually users here in our Salesforce org, but the affiliation and the product type. So granted, Salesforce says that because of how many different values there could be, that it would be a good text field. If we decide that we would actually rather have that as a different data type, we can go and let's check pick list. And also for the product type, although I personally recommend not using multi-select pick lists, for the sake of this, we will. We have project start, which it actually was, pulled that over properly. It is a date. And we have our two different checkboxes. And again, if you wanted to, you actually could move this. Say you wanted one of them to be a pick list and one of them to be a checkbox. All you need to do is switch that over. For the sake of this, though, let's keep them as checkboxes. At the top of this, just to go over this, we went over the field label source, which kind of covers all the rest of the stuff in here. How, one question I've been asked is how does it know which row to pull the field name from? Well, that's right here, field label rows. So if we were to actually go and put, say, row 4 or row 5 in here, then it would actually look for all the data in those rows and pull that as the field names. The other option that we have, which is pretty cool, right? We talked about all the different steps that we have currently when we're going and creating objects in Salesforce. You know, we have to import all that data. Well, through this one tool and this one UI, we can actually go and import all the data that we have in that spreadsheet. Now, again, if you decide not to, for some reason, import all that data right now, you actually can continue and, you know, select no and skip import. And this friendly reminder here, gotta love help text, will actually remind you that you can use the data import wizard or the tool I prefer, which is the data loader, later on down the road to import all these values. We also have the record name field and some more help text here. But being that we've already gone through here, we've ensured that the field data types were correct. We modified 2 of them to be a pick list and a multi-select pick list. Let's go through and just click this next button. Let's see what happens. Wow, okay. So what this essentially allows us to do is actually set the object properties, right? So maybe your Excel sheet that you're working with has a really long name. Obviously mine right here did, and it did cut it off a little bit. What we can go ahead and do though, just highlight that out. Picture projects. Actually, go through and preview that real quick. Hold on. Want to make sure we have our underscores in here. And description of projects being worked on for NASCAR and NASA series. And if you're like me and you misspell some things, spell check's still available. Now we can go and we can check through the advanced settings. For instance, do we want to enable chatter? Well, yes, I personally do in this circumstance because I prefer my project managers to collaborate via chatter within Salesforce. Do we want to be able to search, report, or allow activities for any of this? Yes, most definitely. And we also want to be able to add notes and add files. So with all those staying checked, let's go ahead and click the finish button. Wow, okay. So like that, it's already starting to create the object. It's already created the object, all the fields, the tab, and now it's essentially updating the profiles, the compact layouts, list views, rows. And there we are. So through the Excel spreadsheet that we looked at, we saw that there was essentially 8 different fields that we wanted to create within this one object. There were 35 rows of data, and all 8 fields were created, and all 35 rows were imported into our Salesforce org. Now, what's really cool, as Claudia here says, is you can essentially go and add your object to a Lightning app, or do any other customizations you might want, or sorry, configurations you might want to do throughout this process. And that's all fine and dandy. But let's actually take a look here. And it is very important that you remember the object that you create so that way you can find it. Projects. Yeah, there we go. By typing in project, what we have here is the NPSP Pit Crew projects. And this is why live demos are always fun. Let's see, so we have the object. We should be able to view it. One moment, please.
I'm glad it's not just me, Donald, who sometimes has issues with unforeseen issues with demos.
Right. The good news though is, so granted, it did give us, the first time we went in here, it did give us that message. What we are seeing though is they did create the objects, and we have some list views. Let's go ahead and go to all records. Wow, there we are. So we have our various records, our fields, and essentially all the data that we just created within Salesforce. And if you want to actually drill into one of these, one of my favorite stunt drivers that we have on the team, Ryan Rasberry, we'll go and check his record, his project that he's working on right here. Wow, page layout is set up. We have all of our fields. Obviously, if you want to go and move some of these fields around on the page layout, you can. But all of that stuff, actually, all the fields and the data points actually came through, and it's all right here. So, he's working on a new way for spark plug gaps. Yeah, so there we go. We have the objects. We have, right, and so say you go away and you're like, okay, let's go back to an opportunity. And we're like, okay, cool. Let's go back to our objects. Obviously, the list views are the standard out of the box list views are working. So we have recently viewed. This is the only one we've actually viewed. We go to all records, and everything's here. So just like that, we've created an object. We've created 8 fields on that object, and we've already uploaded all the data that was within that Excel spreadsheet that we were looking at. Personally, I'd say that's a lot more efficient. And as you can see, it provides everything that you were looking for. And the other thing I want to point out is notice that these are all numbers. These are all dates. This also came over properly as checkboxes, which is what we set it to. So, and actually to dive a little bit deeper into that, for instance, the affiliation. Wow. Okay, cool. So the affiliation is an actual pick list, and so is the product type, the multi-select pick list, which we associate with. So for instance, if it was an intake and an engine, we move those right over, save it, as we would with any other record in Salesforce. So now as I go back to our deck, are there any questions on how to utilize or what the Lightning Object Creator can provide for you?
Donald, there's a question from Amy in the chat, and I'm going to read it. So it says, aside from the field label and the field type, is there any way to also include things like the description or the help text in the object creator? So when the fields get created, I think you showed us that the field label and the field type gets detected. And I think the question that Amy has is, can we also set the help text or maybe the field description at the same time?
So at the moment, there is not, but that is on the roadmap. And that is something that I've discussed with the product team there. And actually, we also announced at Dreamforce last year that it is on the roadmap. So not at the moment, but hopefully in the very near future.
Okay. And another question that I have is, what if there is a lookup on the object that you're creating? What if you want to relate this new object to another one? Can we include that in the Lightning Object Creator, or is that something that has to be done as a separate step?
Unfortunately, that also does need to be done as pardon me, as an additional step. But again, that is something that actually is on the roadmap, and the product team is evaluating and hopefully going to bring to market soon. And I have a slide a little bit further down that actually covers a little bit more as far as the product roadmap.
And I have another question. So when you looked at the multi-pick list, right? And the multi-pick list field got created, and it looks like the values of the multi-pick list were automatically set. So how did that work?
Yeah, let me go and pull the Salesforce back up real quick. Give me 2 seconds. Let's see. And let's go back and share the screen. There we are. Yes, so to make sure we're on the same page here. So within the fields, right? So we have, so we'll go and edit this. So you're referring to essentially how it pulled these values into this pick list. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So by selecting pick list from the Lightning Object Creator, when we were working through that step of what field data types, it goes back to essentially how smart the Salesforce platform is, as long as we utilize it properly. And it looks at each of the values that you have within your Excel spreadsheet for that particular field, and essentially narrows them all down in so there's no duplicates, and then posts them to the field itself. So that's all done automatically on the back end.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and even the same for the multi-select pick list, right? So there's no duplicates in here because it noticed that although exhaust was on several of those rows, it only was there once, right? And it is a pick list, so we don't want any duplicates there. So basically did the same thing automatically on the back end.
Thank you.
Definitely. Any other questions?
And well, I don't know if that's a question, but that's definitely something I learned.
Yeah.
And I just want to highlight, or maybe confirm with you. So I was aware of the Lightning Object Creator as a way of creating an object in the fields, but it seems like you said that at the same time you can also import data. So you can both create the object and import data at the same time. And I want to make sure I got that right.
Yeah, so all through that one screen, it recognized the different field values that we were setting up for the object that was from that Excel spreadsheet. And then all 35 rows that were in that Excel spreadsheet are now records here on this object.
That is pretty cool. I did not know that, so thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I found personally that it definitely helps as far as saving time. And we can go through, we basically switch it over here to the all records list view. And yeah, as we scroll down, all 35 rows that were in that Excel spreadsheet are now in here. So I've found it to save me a whole lot of time, especially building demos and stuff like that for various clients, and keeping track of even this here in itself, in the actual developer org that I have this in. It saved a whole lot of time. So whether you wanted to import the ChemLight battery project or the rotatable wiper blades, right? It was all there all at once.
And I assume like one of the one thing that we have to pay attention, all of us. So when we talk to users and we hear about a new requirement, and we have to choose, do we want to create a new object to accommodate this new data type, or does the object already exist as part of nonprofit success pack? And if that's the case, then we might not have to create an object. We might have to just add new custom fields and then do the data import through data loader or whatnot. So I think that would be the first question that I would recommend everybody to ask. If you hear from your users, if they say, well, I'm using this spreadsheet instead of Salesforce, the first question you should ask yourself is there a place already in Salesforce for housing this data? And if the answer is yes, then do the data import. And if the answer is no, then definitely I think this Lightning Object Creator is the way to go.
Yes, that's a very good point, Pierre. Thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
And I think I saw the chat actually ping. Oh, yes. Travis was actually agreeing as well. Outstanding. I guess, does anyone else have any questions in regards to the Lightning Object Creator? Outstanding. So let's go. There we go. So we went through and we essentially added the picture object here and then the projects for the Audi Army object that we already had, right? So if any of y'all, and it should still work, if any of y'all are interested in kind of a little bit more about the backstory on how this particular project was chosen, Salesforce actually flew me out to LA to film a commercial with them on the app that I created. And so if you take your phone, even though it is through a computer screen, and you go to the this graphic here on the right with your phone's camera, basically a QR scanner, it'll actually take you to the YouTube video that this was affiliated with. So just like I said, if you wanted some more backstory on that, you know, it's always important to continue your learning, right? So whether it's going in and seeing how this whole app was created in that video, or whether you're on Trailhead, right? I mean, Trailhead is an amazing tool as well to continue to expand your knowledge and overall make your not only your work but also your end users' lives a lot more easier and efficient. And a little bit more about the roadmap. So support for modifying the field developer / API names, the ability to add description and help text, which was asked, and also support for more sources like Quip, Dropbox, different URLs, etc. Are all on the Salesforce product team's mind, and they're working on ways to essentially make this amazingly efficient tool even more efficient for us as the Ohana. So to recap, essentially, you know, the way that objects used to be created was a bit tedious. There was a bit of work to be involved in there, and it definitely took time, right? Now, through using the Lightning Object Creator, it not only accelerates us creating these objects and essentially apps through automating some of those processes, you know, some of the AI that's involved on the back end that does a lot of this work for us automatically, and connecting the out of the box to various data sources such as Excel, and getting rid of those data silos that are residing within your different environments and organizations. Yeah, it basically makes the whole world a lot easier, at least the world I live in. You know, and if you have any questions or suggestions for the product team and the roadmap, there's actually a site, it's Ideas. They're on Salesforce or the IdeaExchange, and you can actually go in there, and if you think there's this awesome piece that you and a lot of other users could utilize to enhance this, I strongly encourage you to go and post in there with your ideas. Essentially, at the end of the day, that's how we get more functionality that's more meaningful to us as the Ohana and end users of the Salesforce platform. So just a little plug, again, Salesforce Military, formerly known as Vetforce. If you know, especially as close as we are to Veterans Day, if you know any veterans or even veteran spouses or people that are still in the military, I was actually still in the National Guard the first 3 years of my Salesforce career, have them check out veterans.force.com. There's a lot of amazing free training that is provided through the program, as well as mentorship, such as from individuals like myself and my team, as well as the free classes, and job and career coaching, and even certain job opportunities that come up that are specifically looking to hire from this program. So yeah, thank you for your time. If anyone else has any questions, I am definitely all ears.
Thank you very, very much, Donald. If it was not COVID time, I would love to have you join the user group in person, and maybe you could be driving one of your cars and park it in front of our meeting spot, and I think that would be an amazing effect. But you did a fantastic job at sort of conveying your, covering your content. So thank you very much. So with the time we have left, so I actually didn't expect us to have a few minutes left, but I'm happy that we have that. I have two things that I want to cover. One, our next meeting is in December, and that's going to be the third week of December. And I'm just curious if that's a good idea to attempt to have a meeting the week of, so that would be the 17th of December. I know it's the end of the year is a busy time for most organizations. So I'm just wondering if anybody has a strong feeling about it. If we should just skip December or definitely do it, or maybe try to do November or January. Does anybody have input or feedback on that?
So, and I don't want to, what we're doing to overshadow any of that at all. One thing I can say though is I know that we are planning on having a group on December 3rd.
Okay, so that's for the admin user group, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. That's maybe we can talk about the content and see if there's some ways we can work together.
Definitely, that'd be awesome. Anytime I can help the Ohana, I'm more than happy.
Thank you. So for the last few minutes we have, it's sort of the opportunity to ask, any questions, either related to the topics we just had, or related to Salesforce in general. Either you want to share a challenge that you have, and maybe you want to ask feedback from others, or there's maybe a win that you've seen recently with Salesforce that you want to share with others, and maybe get some some encouragement. Anyone?
I guess this is an interesting achievement. This is Jason here in Phoenix, and recently, so last week, to get the story how I got here, last week I was in a Minnesota group meeting that was going to cover interview techniques. And when I RSVP'd for it, the person creating that reached out to me to ask if I could be part of the demonstration. And he gave me some career tips on it, which is great, but then also referred me to his podcast, Career Cloud Radio, which I guess I'll put in the chat. And so I've been listening to that podcast, and I came across a great episode that I'm going to link here in the chat. Specifically, you can listen to the other ones. They're all great because they interview different career coaches with all different insights. And this one episode was really great because for the reason that it gave a technique that I'm calling 3 eyes for 3 eyes, or I. An informal informational interview for interest, insight, and introductions. So it comes from, the best way to networking is the best way to not only advance your career, but also advance your knowledge and your network. But how do you break the ice? And what should you cover? What you have a meeting, just as when you're working, you need to have an agenda when you have a meeting. So when you're breaking that ice, what's the agenda? So make a really casual agenda of saying, hey, let's share a personal interest, a professional insight, and a polite introduction. So personal interest, I'm interested, personal interest, I like improv. Professional insight, this tip, and polite introduction. I'm excited to share this podcast to you so you can get as much out of it as I did. So I've been going through my LinkedIn connections, and I'm like barely acquainted with people that, like, after a virtual meeting, I connect with them and say, hey, it's nice to connect with people in the Ohana ecosystem. But then it's like, from there, it's like, okay, they're connected. I don't know what to say. I don't know what so this has just been really nice knowing that there's this agenda and with these, knowing a person's personal interest, insight from their profession, and someone or something they can introduce me to, it makes the connection more unique, more memorable, So I have something unique to remember them by, and it makes it even stronger connection, because if they're connecting me to someone that they know, that strengthens that network, like neurons that are forming a stronger neural connection. So it's really a cool way. And then from there, for follow-up, I might need to create a Salesforce account just for the network. But what I do is, then after the meeting, I follow up sharing what I've learned from the meeting. So this way it helps me remember, but then also I have that feed right there as a reminder, and the person knows what I got out of it.
That is very cool, Jason. Thank you very much for sharing.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, it's still testing it out. So if you have any thoughts on it, let me know.
Yeah, and thank you for posting the link in the chat. So if anybody's interested, there's a link to the podcast.
Pierre.
All right. Yep.
This is Mary. I have a question about Salesforce. I had a constant contact for Salesforce that John actually set up in my org. And about a month ago, it just completely stopped working. And I don't know how to get it back. I don't know if they stop supporting it. Do I need to uninstall it? What do you do when something like that happens? It just really literally stopped connecting to constant contact.
So that is a good question. So I don't know what the answer is, and if anybody has any ideas, but those are the two things I would try. One is usually there's some sort of log when there's integration. There's a log in Salesforce that would might give me some indication on what's happening. Maybe it's maybe the constant contact username has changed, or maybe the Salesforce username has changed, and it's just a matter of resetting credentials. I would try to find logs. That would be number one. And then number two, I would reach out to Constant Contact, as a paying customer of their service. If I remember correctly, I think you're using the integration provided by Constant Contact. Then I would reach out to them and then ask them the question. I did hear of a change recently recently in the last few months, or maybe 12 months, or maybe a year or so, where Constant Contact used to provide this free app to integrate with Salesforce and Constant Contact, and the app was limited, but it was doing what it promised to do. And I did hear that Constant Contact stopped or retired that functionality, and instead they recommended another way of doing it that unfortunately requires a third-party application that has a cost. So they moved from a free integration to an integration that's more robust but has a cost. So it might be related to that as well. The third party that they recommend. If you do any search online on Google, you'll find that. But I think they are recommending a third party app called Kazumi. It's an app that allows you to connect to systems. So in this case, Salesforce, and then Constant Contact. So I would try that, and if you get stuck, just let me know, and we can try to look at that together.
Okay, thank you, Pierre.
You are welcome. So we're right at time, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I'm sure there's a lot going on for you on this Thursday, Friday coming up tomorrow. So thank you very much for attending today. We recorded this session, and I will be posting the recording in case you have to go back to what was demonstrated by Donald or Whitney or Mackenzie. So thank you very much, and stay safe, and we'll talk very, very soon.